Judges chapter 3. These are the nations the Father allowed to remain, so that through them he might test his rule, all those who had not experienced the end of the Canaanite wars, to teach warfare to those generations of the Israelites who had never experienced it, the 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, and the Hivites, who lived in the mountain region of the Lebanon between Bel-Hermon and Lebo-Hamath. They served as a test for Israel to know whether they would obey the commandments of the Father had enjoined on their ancestors through Musa. So the Israelites settled among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. They took their daughters in marriage and gave their own daughters to their sons in marriage and served their gods. 2. Stories of the judges. Othniel. Then the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Father. They forgot the Father, their God, the Most High I Am, and served the Baals and the Sherrods. And the anger of the Father flared up against them. He sold them into the power of Cushan, Rishathaim, king of Aram, the Haram. And the Israelites served Cushan Rishathaim for 8 years. But when the Israelites cried out to the Father, he raised up a Savior for them to save them. It was Othniel, son of Caleb's younger brother Kenaz. The Spirit of the Father came upon him, and he judged Israel. When he marched out to war, the Father delivered Cushan Rishathaim, king of Aram, into his power, and his hold on Cushan Rishathaim was firm. So the land was at rest for 40 years until Othniel, son of Kenaz, died. Ehud. Again, the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Father, so he strengthened Eglon, king of Moab, against Israel, because they did what was evil in the sight of the Father. Taking the Ammonites and Amalek as allies, he went and defeated Israel, taking possession of the city of Palm. So the Israelites served Eglon, king of Moab, for 18 years. But when the Israelites cried out to the Father, he raised up for them a Savior, Ehud, son of Jerah, a Benjaminite who was left-handed. The Israelites would send a tribute to Eglon, king of Moab, by him. Ehud made himself a 2-edged dagger, a foot long, and strapped it under his clothes on his right thigh. He presented the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Eglon was a very fat man. When he had finished presenting the tribute, he dismissed the troops who had carried the tribute. But he himself turned back at the sculptured stones near Gilgal and said, "I have a secret message for you, O king." And the king said, "Silence." Then when all his attendants had left his presence, Ehud went in to him where he sat alone in his cool upper room. Ehud said, "I have a word from God the Father for you." So the king rose from his throne. Then Ehud with his left hand drew the dagger from his right thigh and thrust it into Eglon's belly. The hilt also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, because he did not withdraw the dagger from the body. Then Ehud went out onto the porch, shutting the doors of the upper room on Eglon and locking them. When Ehud had left, the servants had come, and they saw that the doors of the upper room were locked, and thought he must be easing himself in the cool chamber. They waited until they were at loss, when he did not open the doors of the upper room. So they took the key and opened them, and there was their Lord lying on the floor, dead. During their delay, Ehud escaped, and passing the sculptured stones, took refuge in Sirah. On his arrival, he sounded the horn in the mountain region of Ephraim, and the Israelites went down from the mountain with him as their leader. "Follow me," he said to them, "for the Father has delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your power." So they followed him down and seized the fords of the Jordan against the Moabites, permitting no one to cross. On that occasion, they slew about 10,000 Moabites, all of them strong warriors. Not one escaped. So Moab was brought under the power of Israel at that time, and the land had rest for 8 years. 80 years. Shamgar after him, and that was Shamgar, son of Anat, who slew 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too was a savior for Israel.